Good Wednesday evening, everybody. Welcome in. It is SEC After Dark here on Willis Digital Media, home of the Palmcast. Joining me, as always, my man Stephen Willis and Jeb Beecham. Cheers, gentlemen.
How are y'all doing today?
I am great. How about you?
Doing pretty good.
What you sipping on?
I'm just going my old standard, Coors Light. Love this stuff.
I've got a bullet as well.
Well, make that not 3. I've got a Leinenkugel summer candy. Trying to
That's a good one.
That's right. So welcome in. We are entering week 3 of the college football season, the SEC season. Let me turn my light on. There we go, so you can see me a little bit better. Got the chat is open, so waiting on our associate producer Jake Thomas to waltz in here. He invented the chat, so we're good to go there. That's a little Twitter beef there. Speaking of tweets after dark, you can see that right underneath me. Our social information right there down below. Guys, what turned out to be a very eventful week too, not just in the SEC but around college football in general. Obviously, the Trojans have a job opening, so I regret to inform you that I'll no longer be on this show. I'll be the next head coach at USC. So that's my official resignation. Fight on. Just kidding. But we're going to talk about who is actually in the running for that job. We're going to talk some surprises from week 2, and, of course, our pick segment. We can't go without our pick segment. So, guys, let's get into it. Week 2 saw that Woo Pick Suey. Arkansas said, you know what, we're going to win the Southwest Conference this year, and they looked damn good doing it. KJ Jefferson is a weapon, had a better night passing. But what stood out to me was just how physical and dominant up front Arkansas was compared to Texas.
Yeah, the way they ran the ball and put their stamp on the game was unbelievably impressive because KJ Jefferson is a limited passer. He just really is. You kind of get what you have. Like Felipe Franks is a far superior passer than KJ Jefferson. But that's okay. If you can run the ball for 7 yards a carry and go over 300 yards a game, you should be happy with that and do that. Ride that horse until it won't take you any further.
I agree. Watching Arkansas control both lines of scrimmage was was just very impressive. I honestly did not expect that at all. I know both of you picked them to cover. I did not. I thought Texas was a lot better than that, but Arkansas just dominated them at the line of scrimmage. Just played good smash mouth football. It was actually a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a tight one. I didn't know Arkansas was going to run away like they did. That surprised me because, Sark is really good scheme-wise. He had some good weapons, so I thought it was going to be one of those, close games. Texas is going to win but not cover type deal, or Arkansas is going to win in a squeaker. But, man, it was it was good if you're a Hogs fan. They're ranked for the first time, I think, since 2016. So
Deserved
kudos
to
to
be.
them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
After that game,
absolutely.
Yeah, no, I thought they'd keep it close for a while, and then Texas would run away with it at the end. But Arkansas not only dominated them early, they kept their foot on the gas the entire time. It was very impressive.
Yeah, man, and the Traylons, they both had good nights. Traylon Smith, of course, he scored once. Traylon Burks was really good. I was really impressed with their defense. The defensive front, they flied around. The linebackers, they were without Bumper Pool. He had to serve a first half suspension. But they still got started. They still established things up front defensively. So when Bumper Pool came back, they were good to go. Arkansas rushed for 333 yards, which was the most since 2016 as well. Jefferson, of course, 14 of 19, so extremely efficient. Not a ton of yards, but much more efficient, much more accurate, which is really with his game is you really just want efficiency and accuracy because they can run the ball really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick before we're going, hey, Guy, I got your question there. The question is, how much do you guys think the Matt Corral Heisman talk is real? I think the magic number is 9, as in 9 wins. If Ole Miss can get to 9 wins, the numbers are going to be there to win it. He's in the conversation now. So, yes, I think it's absolutely real. I don't know about Bryce Young. that Alabama Ole Miss game is going to do a lot to maybe even set a leader in the clubhouse for the Heisman race.
I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit on Bryce Young, at least at this moment. But I think he's certainly worthy of it. But all right, so let's cruise around. Palmcast says this 86 Mets documentary is pretty legit. I can't wait to dive into it. The 86 Mets are considered by some as the best baseball team ever. So that's a debate for MLB After Dark. So
Yeah. On MLB After Dark, we'll talk about the rampant drug use of the 86 Mets because there's a whole documentary about different drugs that they were using at that time. And Lenny Dykstra, now he actually, my mom went to try and get me an autograph of Lenny Dykstra when he played for the Jackson Mets way back when. And Lenny Dykstra cussed out my mom.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you watch that documentary, it's absolutely in character. He was not showing, he was not having a bad day. He was just being a horrible human being.
Yes, that sounds. How are you going to cuss out an autograph opportunity for a kid? That's just.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so we travel to Colorado next. A&M. Are we concerned about the Aggies? 10-7 victory over Colorado, which Colorado's a solid Pac-12 team, but they're not anything to write home about. Zach Calzada, not a ton of yards, 18 of 38. Just couldn't get much going through the air. Couldn't get much going, period. Defensively, Texas A&M, strong as usual, but offensively, they just couldn't get anything going. Colorado's not a defensive juggernaut. This is not equal to the Georgia Clemson game here. So I have concerns right now about this A&M squad.
I do as well. Calzada, I'm sure, is fine. Now, we also have to remember, after watching that game plan was put in, and the plays for that game were for Haynes King, a completely different quarterback. These are plays that Zach Calzada can't really run. So I want to see what it looks like this week against New Mexico.
Yeah,
the plays a week of practice, and we'll see what happens. Because if it looks like it looked against New Mexico, like it did against Colorado, Arkansas and Mississippi State can get them.
Yeah, no doubt. And Jeb, what is there a magic number that you need to see against New Mexico for A&M to relieve your worries or whatever?
I don't know when you're playing competition like that. I know they'll look better. Losing Haynes King is a big blow. I don't know. I haven't really read how bad the injury is, how long he's going to be out, but it sounded like it was going to be a little while. Defensively, they were still great. I think Jimbo Fisher he's pretty good at running the offense. They have a lot of pieces besides quarterback, so I think they can pull it together. I just don't know if they're going to be as competitive as I thought they were going to be. I was picking them to upset Alabama, and I'm not sure that's going to happen now.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might backtrack a little bit there, but we'll kind of see now when they have Zach Calzada in the catbird seat for the entire week taking reps with the ones. It'll probably be a little bit different. Looking at Florida, South Florida, actually Bama was 48-14 winners over Mercer. Not much to write about that game except Nick Saban doing what Nick Saban does, complaining after beating an FCS team that his team wasn't good enough. Florida. Winners 42-20 over South Florida. Did not cover the spread. Anthony Richardson came up lame. He's the better quarterback. Is Dan Mullen going to start Anthony Richardson, barring any sort of healthy setback against Alabama? Is there a quarterback controversy in Florida?
No, I don't think there's a quarterback controversy at all. Anthony Richardson's the better quarterback. But here's the problem. Anthony Richardson can still be ruined. If you go out and have a disaster game against Alabama, that can affect him the rest of the year. And especially against Georgia, which is the game that Florida needs. The Alabama game's important, but they really want to be clicking at 100% for Georgia. You can still ruin Anthony Richardson and Emory Jones. If a disaster game happens, he is more likely to bounce back, and then next week you'll have a quarterback competition that Anthony Richardson will win.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty obvious at this point. I don't think that you can miss that.
Also, before we move on, I am not convinced that Alabama's the real deal.
I'm not either.
Miami went and really struggled to win against Appalachian State. If it wasn't for explosives, Alabama's offense would be at about 375 yards in that Miami game. They had 410 or 415 or something like that against Mercer total. This is not an explosive offense, and we're going to see what happens because there's the drop eights that really affect young quarterbacks, like what Barry Odom's doing up at Arkansas, what DJ Durkin is now doing at Ole Miss, that drop eight three safety coverage. There's going to be some small windows and it could affect a young quarterback like Bryce Young pretty precipitously.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be much of a problem this weekend because Todd Grantham is a havoc-style defense, and there's going to be first in Grantham, second in Grantham, and third in Grantham, and maybe even fourth in Grantham if we really want to get into it. So we'll get into that more here in a little bit when we get into our picks. Ole Miss, 54-17 win over Austin Peay. Again, Matt Corral, 5 touchdowns. Dontario Drummond, the leading receiver with 107 on 6 catches and 2 scores himself. Again, not much to talk about. If you want a deep analysis about this matchup, check out the content on the Palmcast. We've got some. We got Auburn 62-0 winners over Alabama State. We don't really need to break that one down either, except for the fact that Auburn has 60-burgered 2 teams in a row.
I'm not sure if Akron would beat Alabama State.
I'm not sure either.
I'm not
sure either.
Yeah, it's pretty bad as it gets, but hey, it's about to get real for Auburn, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well.
Oh, absolutely, we will. So, South Carolina, East Carolina, 2017 last-minute field goal to push ahead for the Gamecocks. Overcame some adversity there against East Carolina on the road. Just my quick thoughts on that. Just no talent there in Columbia. It's pretty bare. They play hard. I'll give them that.
Yeah, they play really hard. I picked East Carolina plus 2.5 points, and they lose by 3, so that kind of hurt a little bit. Had a pretty good week on last week's picks, but that game kind of sticks them across a little bit. And also, I told everybody that South Florida was going to cover against Florida.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't believe that either, but
I didn't believe it either, but maybe I should have. So, a couple other, I guess, non-notable games. The Orgeron Bowl, LSU was 34-7 winners in that. Vanderbilt came from behind last-second field goal to beat the Rams of Colorado State. So, congratulations, Clark Lee, getting your first victory. You finally finished off the cupcake. So now, the recap business at hand. We had 3 really good games. The Pitt-Tennessee game ended up being a barn burner. Thought Tennessee jumped out early. Pitt came back, then jumped on top of them. Thought Pitt was gonna start to run away with it, and then Tennessee came roaring back. The story of this one for me is that Joe Milton is exactly what I thought he was. A terribly inaccurate quarterback that was, I guess if you're Tennessee fans, fortunate enough to get banged up enough to where Hendon Hooker comes in and Wally pips him. So now I thought Hendon Hooker was the better quarterback in this situation. Hendon Hooker actually had a really good afternoon, 15 of 21, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, did throw 1 pick, but had a good day overall in relief duty. Of course, Joe Milton was your leading rusher. Hendon Hooker was right there on his heels. So kind of concerning that your quarterbacks are your leading rushers. But overall, I just think that this was one of those games for Tennessee where if they had just a little bit more depth and a little bit better quarterback play, they probably win this game.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was going to say, in Tennessee's defense, yes, the injury to the quarterback I think actually helped them a lot. But they went into this game without one of their leading rushers. They lost the other one partway through the game. So injuries were really hitting our running backs hard, too. We were down to our 3rd string there at that point, who I think has a lot of talent, but he's also very young. Might be a true freshman, actually. So they and then turnovers just killing them. I read this somewhere. I can't remember exactly what it was, what the turnover margin is right now for Tennessee, but I'm pretty sure they're basically dead last in college football right now in FCS for turnover margin. It's I know Milton lost a couple, Hooker lost a couple. They both lost fumbles. I know it was rough, but Hooker definitely looked a lot better. I
They
thought.
they were actually actually only lost. They actually only threw one interception last week, so they kind of got the turnover uh, train going back in the right direction. So they were just -1 instead of I think -3 in the first game. So, um, but overall, I
That's not
mean,
bad.
I think overall, when you look at this game, I think if you're Tennessee fans, your expectations are a little bit tempered, and I think they played
Yeah.
admirably. I thought they rallied. Like I thought once Pitt jumped out to about a 3 touchdown lead there for a second in the third quarter, that it was going to be time to fold the tent and go, and Tennessee was just going to get blown right on out. That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened at all. I mean, I think Josh Heupel is going in the right direction, but this is just a case a lot like South Carolina, but they're in a little bit better shape than South Carolina, of just not having enough talent and injuries decimating you in a game that ends up being pretty tight.
And I wanted to see Harrison Bailey pretty bad, but I got to tell you, the way the offensive line was playing and Hooker was running for his life, I think it was one of those situations where he was better suited because of his legs to come in. And he did. He made the most of his opportunity.
And
I was happy to
Hooker's
see
a
that.
little bit more accurate too. I think he's a better passer than Milton. I think he brings more to the table than Milton.
Yeah.
Milton was just not the right fit for what he does. So it was kind of an odd start to begin with. So, but let's move on. Unless Steve, you got something you want to add?
Yeah. The one thing that I said, I last week I talked about how Pitt was like the UCLA of the East Coast with a bunch of super seniors and seniors on the roster, and they were going to just victimize the Tennessee depth, and they did that, and everything went according to what I thought would happen until Joe Milton got injured and Hendon Hooker came in. And there was some fight back from Tennessee from that point on, and you should take that and be hopeful. You might not be able to go to a bowl game this year, and that may not be an issue that you have to worry about, but there is hope for the future.
There is indeed, and another team that has a little bit of hope for the future. They showed me something last weekend. Mississippi State hosted NC State. I thought it was going to be a curb stomping. Honestly, I thought NC State was going to roll in there, maul them to death, and leave with a victory. Not the case whatsoever. If there was ever 24-10 seemed like it might as well have been 54-10 for Mississippi State. I mean, they weren't not in danger. They had total control of that game. I thought Mississippi State played extremely well. Will Rogers, 33 of 49, 294, 2 touchdowns. We had, obviously Mississippi State's rushing stats are never going to be good. But you had a lot of receivers. You had one, two, three, four. No, one, two. You had three guys with at least 5 catches, one guy with 4, one guy with 3. So the ball was being spread around the yard. For NC State, they were just woeful. They were pitiful. And they turned the ball over 3 times with 2 picks and a fumble. That doesn't help at all as well. And then, of course, 6 penalties, things like that. Just was awful on third down, 6 of 20. Mississippi State wasn't much better, 3 of 13. So it was an ugly, ugly game. But Mississippi State took care of the ball, and that seemed to be what was the difference.
Yeah, there's 2 reactions whenever these non-conference clashes happen. Teams either play an SEC opponent and just pee runs down their leg after seeing the SEC logo, and the game's over before kickoff, or you're going to get their best punch. There's no middle ground of what's going on. And NC State looked, I'm not going to say
were
they
the
didn't
former.
They just didn't look good because State only scored 17 offensive points. The other one was a kickoff return. So you had a defense that just completely shut that offense down. And NC State, back to the drawing board, have a nice day. And Zach Arnett is not going to be in Starkville next year. That's my hot take right now. He will not be in Starkville next year.
Oh, okay. Zach, okay. All right.
He's going to be in Austin.
As of right now, that is a piping hot take. But let's see. Let's write that down. And let me get my Mead marble notebook and write it down and stick it in my Trapper Keeper. So, but yeah, I mean, this game, just what stood out to me is just how intimidated NC State was from the jump. The SEC logo, the cowbells, the atmosphere, all that good stuff. Mike Leach standing over there with his index card of his playbook, calling plays.
Play card that big. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally like this notebook right here, like, and it's literally probably just jotted down just like that. And if you're wondering, that's Israel and I's picks from our show last night that aired today. But so I think it's it's just one of those deals where NC State, they're going to do well in the ACC because ACC is what it is. But they may even give Clemson some fits, but this past game was not fun for them. So, but State, kudos to you getting your win. Hope maybe that'll build some momentum. The West is going to be really, 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 really strong, really competitive. So, I look forward to that. Now,
Mississippi State to Texas A&M. Whenever that happens in a couple of weeks, that's an upset to look for the Aggies.
I mean, yeah, don't sleep on State right now. And on illegal motion, I got laughed out of the building when I said State was going to be better. Yeah, maybe and NC State was their darlings, and I kind of drank the Kool-Aid on that too. But they really kind of drove that train. But let's talk about our first conference matchup. I believe it was the first conference matchup.
Yeah,
right?
You talking about Kentucky, Missouri?
Yeah. So impressive nonetheless. Kentucky got out early. Missouri fought back a little bit. I thought this was a pretty evenly matched game. Will Levis not as effective through the air, but Chris Rodriguez 206 yards on the ground, scoring 3 times. Again, what stood out to me on this game is just the resourcefulness of not being stuck within your system, within the box that is your system, being able to say, okay, tonight we don't really need to pass the ball as much. Chris Rodriguez is going off. We're just going to keep feeding him. It's working. A lot of coaches are like, okay, I'm air raid, so I got to throw it, but the run is there. Oh no, but I got to throw it because that's what we do. No, Kentucky's like, you know what? We've run the ball really well in the past, and we're going to continue to run the ball really well in the past. And we got a quarterback that can throw it downfield when he wants to, and when we have to have it or when we want to have it. But they didn't really need it. He was 10 of 18, 179 yards. He did throw a touchdown and a pick, but they didn't really they weren't in dire need of Will Levis to come bail him out in this game. Chris Rodriguez did plenty of that and took control of this game. And Missouri, they fought back, but they played admirably. But I think Kentucky showed us really what they are. They're a physical football team, plays well enough on defense, and they're resourceful on offense to win however they need to win.
I agree with you. I agree completely. I think Kentucky impressed me with their ability to actually adapt to the situation. Like you said, they didn't need to pass as much this time. They didn't. They played what they needed to do to beat the team they were playing. And Missouri did play really well. I was actually more impressed with Missouri than I thought it would be. But Kentucky, I think Kentucky can beat Florida for number 2 in the SEC East this year. They are much better than I would have guessed at the beginning of the season. And I'm really impressed with Mark Stoops. He's a great coach. Yeah, it's going to be a great one.
Yeah. So, Will Levis. First of all, let me say this: Kentucky is good. I'm not saying Kentucky is not good, but this stat line that from this game with the passing and the running could have been last year. It could have been 2 years ago. Terry Wilson against Louisiana Monroe could have thrown for 370 yards if they just let the deep ball go, because that pass defense isn't that great. I'm just saying I'm not convinced of what they're doing offensively. Now, I am impressed by their willingness to embrace the run game still and win that way, win in a familiar way. But that stat line against Missouri, that could have been a 2020 stat line.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a little bit of throwback. Kentucky fans are like, man, I thought we were a passing team. But then again, if I'm a Kentucky fan, I'm just excited that we won. So.
Yeah, you take the wins.
Yeah, just win the game. And like Ole Miss, we've run for 300 yards against Alabama 2 straight years. We've run for over 300 yards at least. One time 400 yards against LSU. back-to-back years. Our offense is designed to take what the defense gives us. Sometimes they give us the run, and we have athletes that are able to punish a defense. If you step up to try and take that run away, we have receivers that can punish that defense. Every pass play has a run tag. Every run play has a pass tag. You can never be right playing that offense. And that's just modern college football. That's an example of what Kentucky is striving to be, and eventually they will get there, because Ole Miss at this point is in, Lane Kiffin 102 as opposed to the 101 they ran last year.
Absolutely. And if you want to see what Lane Kiffin 101 looks like, check us out on the Pomcast. One of the original shows, actually, of the Pomcast, which is Boot Camp the Offense. But what I'm impressed by is the impact that Wandel Robinson has had on this team. He had another 100-yard game on 5 catches. Just an absolute beast coming over from Nebraska. Just fits right in.
Yeah, Scott Frost is probably really, whatever he did to run off Wandel Robinson and cause that transfer to happen, is probably hurting pretty good right now, because he's a heck of a playmaker, and he even makes Josh Ali better. He makes other players around him better, and that in turn helps the pass game, we think.
And this is not a downgrade of Wandel Robinson, but I just don't think he could help the situation at Nebraska. He saw the writing on the wall, and he said deuces. So speaking of somebody that speaking of a place that is in need of a coach, dire need of a coach, and rumors are flying around, the Trojans got whipped, got their you-know-what's whipped last weekend against Stanford, who got their you-know-what's whipped against Kansas State, who almost lost to an FCS team last weekend. So if we're going to play that game, an FCS team is the FCS team that nearly beat Kansas State is better than USC. So if you want to try to trace that map, feel free. But and also from last week, Georgia 56-7 winners over UAB. The Stetson Bennett experience probably going to happen one more week, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. But USC, man, they said goodbye to Clay Helton. To me, was long overdue. And I'm sure if we asked Guy Caldwell in the chat, he would probably say the same thing. So we got to look at, first of all, what went wrong. Second of all, who's going to get that program back in order?
At this point, I think you need to tear it completely down. They've been trying to recreate that Pete Carroll magic for 20 years ever since then. Because if you think about it, go back and look at the last 40 years, save for that 5-year Pete Carroll run where he was really, really good, there's 35 years of mediocrity. So you can call that a top 5 job and everything's going. I think that's just nostalgia of people remembering that 5-year period. It's pretty hard to win there. And I think that you need to just tear it down and find out your identity. The place that invented student body right is now running the air raid offensively. I mean, it just find your identity, maximize it.
Do you think it hurts them finding another head coach, the fact that they keep leaving coaches just basically on the tarmac in the middle of seasons?
Yeah, I think so too.
That doesn't help.
Yeah.
It does not help.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a place like USC is going to have trouble getting a coach, but it may hurt with some of the top-tier talent, the guys you really want.
Three straight coaches mid-season fires.
Yep, not a good look if you're USC. But have you seen the list that they've put out that they think they're going to like? Do they really think that Matt Campbell, who just turned down $68 million from the Detroit Lions, is going to come to USC?
Well, do they think it? Yeah, they absolutely think it. Like, Pete Carroll was their 6th option. That's the one thing we need to remember. They lucked into Pete Carroll. They did not want to hire him. They offered the job to 6 different people. Everybody kept saying no, and they eventually offered Pete Carroll, who had just, I think, got let go from the New England Patriots at that point. And he took it to start coaching, and they hit lightning in the bottle. And Orgeron, through recruiting, was retained over there, and he hired a young up-and-coming couple of offensive coaches known as Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin. And they learned under Norm Chow, because I think it's amazing the influence that Norm Chow is having in college football right now. It's crazy. But I really think you need to just tear it completely down and start over. Now, I don't think USC needs a professional coach. Some people's like, you hear Eric Bieniemy's name. You hear other NFL type guys in there. I think it's going to come down to like Bob Stoops if he wants to come back, Chris Peterson if he wants to come back, and the active coach that's out there is James Franklin, is the coach that I would look at. And all of those are different from that Pete Carroll system. Because before that, it was John McKay and a little bit of success before John Robinson, and then 40 years of mediocrity saved the Pete Carroll stuff.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the coaching situation, you have to find a guy, and the personality trend they need to try to at least just pick somebody that's close to that Pete Carroll model, which is you have a rah-rah, big time leader guy. And I think if they can get James Franklin, which I'm not sure that they can, maybe there's something we don't know that's happening in Penn State. Maybe there's a little bit more turmoil there than we think. But I think James Franklin, who somehow won 9 games back-to-back seasons at Vanderbilt, still don't know how he did that. I think he'd be great for this job. I mean, he's good in those situations. He's good at rallying a down program and getting energy within the program. He's a high energy guy. He's a tough guy to play for. He's going to have his teams playing really, really well. I think with the talent there, and if he keeps a few key guys on that staff that recruit really well in Southern California, I think they have a chance of really regaining their foothold that they had under Pete Carroll in Southern California and in the Pac-12. So I think you do go heavy after James Franklin. I'm not sure that you can get him. If you can't get him, there's a couple of guys just down the road in the Mountain West Conference that I think would be great and names to possibly look out for. Andy Avalos at Boise State and Kalani Sitake at BYU, I think, are two guys, two up-and-comers that should be considered for this job.
Sitake, absolutely. But James Franklin, I was embedded with James Franklin for the 2013 signing day. The signing class where Robert Kimdichie and Laquan Treadwell and those guys signed with Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. And this guy oozes charisma. This guy knows how to use the media. He knows how to promote his program. And he had Vanderbilt on the ascendancy. And then he gets to Happy Valley up there, and they're just a little bit of a different animal. It's hard for the media to get to them. I mean, if you ever wonder where State College, Pennsylvania is, it's in the northern part of the central part of the state. So it's hard to get this, like 3 or 4 hours away from Philly, 3 or 4 hours away from Pittsburgh, and like 2 hours away from Harrisburg. It's in the middle of nowhere. And James Franklin, I think that is just a little bit too much of an ask for him because he wants that media. He promotes his product through the media, and he wants them nearby. And if you're in USC, he could create a monster out there. Yeah, absolutely could create a monster out there.
Yeah,
and that's why I was wondering about USC's tendency to fire coaches being a hindrance, because Penn State seems like the kind of program that stays pretty loyal to a coach. So I feel like James Franklin has a good place there where he's not too worried about his job, makes good money, people love him. But maybe it is the need to go out to California to see if he can build another program up like he did at Vanderbilt. Maybe that's what drives him out there. So it'd be interesting to see.
And he's not far away from building a monster out there, because it's not like when he got to Penn State was bottom of the barrel after what had happened with the Joe Paterno saga, and Bill O'Brien had propped it up a little bit, but I mean, even then, it was still down in the tank. And so when he got there, he elevated the program to what it is now. Yeah. But they're still middle tier Big Ten. Like, they're still considered. They get a lot of love that's not really justified, in my opinion. But he has that team as 6-point favorites against Penn State, hosting Penn State. So or hosting Auburn. I mean, and I think that when you look at the job that he's done at Penn State and getting all of it's tough to get there. It's tough to get excitement around there because it's in the middle of nowhere. But he has that excitement, and he is able to build that. So imagine you put that in a major market like LA. You put the recruiting of Southern, have some of these guys stay in Southern California that have left, like Kayvon Thibodeau and all these quarterbacks that are sitting in the SEC from Southern California. Imagine if USC gets one of these. Like, imagine if Matt Corral was at USC under James Franklin, and Kayvon Thibodeau was a Trojan because he grew up right down the road from the Coliseum. Can you imagine if that happened? Mm-hmm. So I think he would be great for this job. I just don't think I just think the loyalty that the Penn State administration is showing him, I think that's going to win out in the end. I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he left, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he stayed either.
Yeah, and also don't forget about the name, image, and likeness stuff in Louisiana and Los Angeles in that area with USC. That does make that job a little bit of a monster because there's opportunities for those players. You can get your star quarterback a record deal. You just have to promote your program. So they need somebody that would think to go that route. And that's another guy like James Franklin. Now there's a chance they just go get a football guy. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. They get back to the 8-4, 9-3 ways that's acceptable. They won't be elite. They won't win major competitions, but they're going to be in the Pac-12 race. They're going to play in Pac-12 championship games. But, I mean, I think James Franklin could be that special sauce out there in Los Angeles.
You can't say deuces to your coach after week 2 and go and hire somebody that's going to hire a football guy that's going to get you 8-4. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You want to talk about loss of momentum in your program? You can't do that.
Yeah.
You have to make a splash here.
They should have fired. They should have fired Clay Helton in December. They wanted to fire him. They should have just fired him.
They should have. They could have gotten Brian Harsin, possibly. They could have gotten some of these West Coast guys. They could have gotten Sataki. Kyle Whittingham is another name that's being thrown around. I don't think he leaves Utah, but that would be a good hire if they got him. Probably not as much of a good hire, splash hire as James Franklin or somebody like Kalani Sataki, somebody who also promotes his guys, and he's a big energy guy. So, but that's USC.
Oh, real quick, the SEC coaches, the Dan Mullen rumors, the Ed Orgeron rumors, the Lane Kiffin rumors that you will hear. USC is not.
Please
Go
hire
ahead.
Ed Orgeron.
Yeah.
Please hire. Come on, do it.
Yeah,
do it.
please.
Do it. Do it. I promise you.
USC does not have the SEC logo on their helmet, and none of these guys are coaching at Vanderbilt. I am not worried about any SEC coach moving out to SC.
You think they're going to rehire Lane Kiffin? That's not going to work.
Yeah. No. You just fired a guy on a tarmac, and they're going to try and make rumors like it's going to happen. They're trying to get clicks. And I hate it when they start playing the telephone game. They're wrong like 80% of the time. It's tiring. It's just absolutely tiring.
Yeah.
You know who doesn't play telephone? Us.
Yes.
Us.
Not even a little bit.
And Jake Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't play it either.
Associate producer Jake Thomas.
Yeah. So Jake, I got PC-matic and I upgraded to Windows 2000, so I'm good to go. Google Chrome, baby. Google Chrome.
Well, at least it's not Windows ME.
That's true. Windows ME was so weak. That was the weakest
worst
one. It was so weak. All right, so let's move on to week 3. We got a really kind of a poo-poo platter of games here, but in the middle of that poo-poo platter, you got a conference matchup between Alabama and Florida. You've also got this intense matchup, Chattanooga versus Kentucky. You got some game happening in Pennsylvania in the middle of nowhere, Penn State hosting Auburn. And, of course, Tulane. I never thought I'd say this, but Tulane, this is an interesting matchup because geography. I think Tulane is geographically with Ole Miss. I think there's a little bit of a somewhat rivalry there where there's some Tulane fans that stick their nose up at Ole Miss. So it's an interesting matchup. I think it's going to be I think Ole Miss is easily going to cover that, but it's an interesting matchup no matter how you slice and dice it. And then the Smart School Bowl, Stanford versus Vandy. That's an interesting matchup. I think Stanford rolls in that one, but you never really know. And then Georgia, South Carolina, another conference matchup, which Georgia's 31.5 point favorites. I don't know whether to laugh or laugh harder. That is the most pitiful spread I've ever seen. And Georgia's not even starting JT Daniels likely in this game, and it's still 31.5.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Shane Beamer's got some work ahead of him.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And did you know Brock Bowers was clocked at 21.9 miles an hour on his long touchdown? That was best. That was good enough for number 2 on the list of fastest players, fastest ball carriers in the SEC in week 2.
Yeah, we were talking about Darnell Washington and Eric Gilbert, and then this Bowers kid comes in as a true freshman, and it might usurp them both and become
9
the guy.
catches.
Yeah, become the guy at the tight end position.
Not might. I think he did.
Yeah,
He's
impressive.
Leading receiver, back-to-back 100-yard games. I think with a big week this week, I think you're saying Brock Bowers and instead of Darnell Washington and. So this will be an interesting matchup. I think Israel's going to be there, so he's hopefully going to give me the live report there. A&M plays New Mexico, 29.5 point favorites. I like to see that. I'd like to see them cover that and then some. I'd like to see a big number put up by Texas A&M if I want to feel good about it. The story of this one is Terry Wilson returns to the SEC with New Mexico.
Yeah,
so,
I'm looking forward to that game. Like you said, Texas A&M needs to cover that line. That line is 28.5 points. I don't know if Zach Calzada can be that guy. That'll tell us everything we need to know on that line. They should hit this number. If they don't hit this number, look out for Mississippi State and Arkansas coming down the road.
I think they hit the number because New Mexico doesn't score because this defense is really good, but this offense is kind of struggling right now. Chattanooga, Kentucky, Southeast Missouri State takes on Mizzou. Tennessee Tech looks for state supremacy against the Vols. Yeah. Georgia Southern. I had to do that. I didn't want to lose my dog card. Georgia Southern takes on Arkansas. Mississippi State takes on Memphis. We'll cover all these in our picks. Central Michigan, LSU. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Of course, Tulane, Ole Miss, and Stanford, Vanderbilt. But let's get into Bama, Florida. Let's jump into this one. Okay, we were talking off the top of the show. Florida's got a quarterback situation where you know who your better quarterback is. Mm-hmm. It's obviously Anthony Richardson, but he is obviously not ready for this Alabama defense. To me, I think it'd be a terrible idea, which I think Dan Mullen's going to do it now since I said it was a terrible idea, that to throw Anthony Richardson into the Wolves against Alabama. Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Anthony Richardson is still ruinable. Dan Mullen can ruin him as a quarterback, and a disaster game against Alabama would destroy his confidence. It could mess him up like Bo Nix for 2 years. It's one of those type games. I think Emory Jones will take most of the reps this week. Emory Jones will not do that well, and Alabama will win the game. Starting next week, there will be a quarterback competition that Anthony Richardson will win, and they will start getting him ready for Georgia. That's my opinion on that.
And I think that's exactly what should happen.
I don't know. It just depends on what type of person Anthony Richardson is. Some people you throw them in under the pressure, and they just sharpen. You never know. This may be a good opportunity for him to come in, even if he's not going to win. He may never play great, but if he can show them what he can do or give them promise for the future, I understand that there's a good chance you could also ruin him. So maybe they just don't want to take the chance, and I don't blame them for that. Yeah, but I mean, we threw Dobbs into Alabama in one of his first games. He got utterly destroyed, but he was a good quarterback moving forward because we knew he was going to get destroyed. It was fine. Yeah. He took his lumps and he learned from it.
He's also a astrophysicist too. So
yeah, he builds rocket ships.
Yes.
Also, what you need to know is Bryce Young. One thing, Todd Grantham's defense are attacked by explosive plays, go routes, post routes, corner routes, down the field. If you allow them to play in the 10-yard box that they want to play in defensively and compress everything, you could be in trouble. So it'll be extremely important for Bryce Young to make them pay over the top one, if not two times over the course of this game.
Yeah, I mean that's the game plan. I mean that's the game plan that beats them. Every year that Georgia has beat Florida, and this is that's usually the most intensely that I watch the Florida teams, and these Todd Grantham defenses, and seeing it on our end as well, and teams beating us this way. I think when you can push the ball down the field, if you can pick up the blitz long enough for him to get the ball out, and they get chunk plays, this is going to be a rout. Okay, because Florida's going to be out of position more times than not, because they're going to be looking over the sideline. They're not going to be able to get lined up. I think shifts, motions, things that changes the strength of the formation also gets them in trouble, because it just doesn't seem like when you watch this team play, they're really concerned about all that stuff. They're just concerned about getting hits on the quarterback and getting the ball loose and all that good stuff. So I think when you look at all this, you have to understand what his defense does. And as a game planner, which Bill O'Brien has not seen a Todd Grantham defense yet, so he doesn't fully understand what it takes to beat this defense. So I kind of worry about that a little bit. But then again, I'm like, well, Bama has talent. You know, it's just next man. They just reload and they come at you, and that's what'll happen. They'll reload. They'll come in Florida. This will be a big number. Like, Bama's just going to do what Bama does, and they're just going to stomp Florida. You're going to hear all this talk about Mullen. Mullen's going to lose his mind on the sideline. So if I'm a Bama fan, which I am this weekend, sorry, Florida, it just is what it is. But I think it's going to happen. I think Bama's going to roll here.
I agree with you. Also, remember that Florida's offense, this isn't Kyle Trask they're running out. They're not built to come back. If Alabama's up, Florida's in trouble. The only chance Florida has is front running. They need a special teams touchdown. They need to be ahead at halftime. Allow the swamp to get into the game, and then let the young quarterback in his first actions struggle. That's the only pathway that Florida has to win this game. Because if Alabama goes up 14-0 in the first, this game's over.
Yeah, there's no way. And Bama can score quick. They've shown that against Miami. You get a defense on its heels, they're going to make you pay. So I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to this game. It's a 2:30 kick on CBS. I think this is the last year CBS has the SEC. So.
Well, it could be all the way up until 24, I think, but they think ESPN is going to buy out CBS.
It's all going to the Longhorn Network next year.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, I still think the Longhorn Network needs to become the SEC West channel, and then just brand what they have in Charlotte as the SEC East channel. Put them both on there and do that. Let's make all the money.
I like that.
And then hire us, right? There you go. All right, so Jake. You can click away now. We're going to talk about Auburn for a minute and what their chances are. They come in as 6.5. Well, actually, it's dropped down to 5 now, I think. But I think when you look at this game, it's a very interesting matchup. When you look at this, they come in as 5-point underdogs now. This Auburn team, it's very strange. Like, they have played two teams that have been so far mismatched that we really actually still do not know what Auburn has. We do not know. Obviously, Bo is going to look good against Akron. I would probably look good against Akron and Alabama State. So we really don't know what they have. We know what they have in Tank Bigsby.
Jarquez Hunter's a good back. We know that.
And so we know they have a good two-headed monster. We know now they use the tight end. So we know this much. Tight end is going to be involved in the offense now. Okay? But who are we really throwing to? Who is the guy that when it counts, when it's the crowd, the 107,000 in Happy Valley are in a frenzy, white out, towels waving. You can't even hear yourself blink. What are you going to do? Because you can't just turn around and give it to Jarquez Hunter and Tank Bigsby. You've got to have something more than that. What do they do? What is their identity? What are we looking at when we look at Auburn?
Well, the one thing that you need to know is what Mike Bobo wants to do offensively at Auburn and what Auburn is doing quite well. You're playing exactly the wrong team and from exactly the wrong conference to try and get up and run that, because they beat Wisconsin. They went to Wisconsin and beat those guys. They can handle this physical old man style football. So Auburn's going to have to come out of their shell. I think Brian Harson's going to try to do it. I don't know names on the outside for Auburn. That's probably bad after 2 weeks and 260 burgers put up. I don't know if I believe in what they're doing, and I need, if this is a game that Penn State wins by 2 touchdowns, Auburn's like a 5th or 6th best team in the West.
Yeah, I think this has all those possibilities, right, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. After 2 games, the best I can say about Auburn is they've done what they needed to do. They came out, they played teams that were far below them, they blew them out, which is exactly what you'd expect. Unfortunately, it doesn't give us many answers as to what they actually are as a team. So we'll see. I don't know. We've talked a lot about James Franklin, so we know where Penn State is. They're a good team, very solid team, very good up front on the line. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh, and Auburn's about to learn for real. When you go up there with that SEC on your helmet, they're going to get Penn State's best shot. They're going to white out. That place is going to be a zoo. So if Auburn's not ready to play, Penn State's going to take them down pretty hard.
Yeah, Auburn will not intimidate them. You're right.
No, they have taken down Ohio State plenty of times in Ohio State's best years under Urban Meyer and Happy Valley. So atmosphere is not an issue there. And yes, Penn State will be lit with a capital lit. But when you look at this matchup, when you look at what Penn State does bring to the table, we know, both teams have great running games. Noah Cain, Tank Bigsby, Jarquez Hunter. We know what we got there. We know Sean Clifford is a quarterback that can distribute the ball. He's not going to be overwhelmingly great, but he's not going to get you in bad situations either. Week 1, they went up against a really well-coached, not as talented, but they kind of play over their heads defense in Wisconsin, big and physical. Jack Sanborn might be one of the best linebackers in the country, by the way. Just a side note there. But Jim Leonard is doing a great job up there in Wisconsin, getting the best out of his defense that he possibly can. They held Penn State to probably what's going to be their lowest point total all season long, 16. But Penn State also held an explosive, powerful running Wisconsin offense to only 10 points. So we know that defensively they fly to the ball. They run well. They tackle well. They're well coached. They're always in good position. They scheme well. So we know that they're going to bring all of that. They play crisp. They play clean. So what Auburn has to do, it's going to all – I mean, I hate to say this because you never really want it to fall on – it really never falls on one person's shoulders much. But in this game, it kind of really does. It's going to fall on Bo Nix.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just call it what it is. It's going to fall on Bo Nix. And he's got to be the one that's got to get them out of these situations. He's got to be the one that makes the play, that takes the crowd out of the game. If you take that crowd out of the game, you want to see a team deflate fast. Penn State feeds off the energy, but then they also shrivel when there's no energy in the stadium too. They have that they have that possibility. So you take the crowd out early, you get on top of them early, and you do not let them off the mat. And Bo Nix has got to be that guy. So he's average on the road. He's going to have to figure out a way to change that. Mike Bobo and Brian Harsin are going to have to figure out ways to do that and to get him out of that tendency. Maybe a different scheme does that to him. We don't know because we haven't seen him on the road with this new regime. So is that still true? We will find out soon enough, Jake.
Yeah, and also Auburn's offense, what Mike Bobo is running at Auburn, is basically the same stuff they were running in 2004 when Jason Campbell and Cadillac and Ronnie Brown was around there. So it's not going to be the most advanced things out there. It's going to be about executing. It's going to be about physicality. It's going to be a smash mouth football game. If you like those old school football games, this will be exactly what you want to watch. Now, the flip side of that is Derek Mason does really well on defense. I'm excited to see him match up against the Penn State offense. They've given up very few points early and very few yards. I'm looking forward to see what they can do in Happy Valley, because this thing can go anywhere from a Penn State 2-touchdown win to an Auburn field goal win. I mean, and anywhere in between.
And I mean, you never know. Auburn might roll. There's that chance. We don't know. We have no idea.
Yeah.
And we, this will be Penn State's second big game, so we kind of know what they're like in big spots. So, again, I'm excited to kind of see what they have. I'm kind of excited to see what we got going on. So, as we put a bow on this preview here, is that blasphemy, Jake? I just said it might happen. I don't think it will happen. See, Jake, here's the thing, Jake. I don't know if you hate Auburn worse than I hate Florida. This is all the rules is trees. This will be a fun competition with us. And to be honest, Stacy, I was recording other shows, so I didn't get a chance to catch y'all's show live. I plan on listening to it. Obviously on demand on YouTube. So I didn't know that you said it was going to go through all Bo Nix. So that's good. We're on the same page. That's what we do here at Willis Digital Media. We're a family. Yeah, there you go. Flex. We got to work on your flex, Steve. But yeah, you're being nice, Jake. Now you're being nice. Trust me, I loathe Auburn. So the chat window is up. We are SEC After Dark. We're getting ready to get into our pick segment. Steve, is there sponsors on the board here on SEC After Dark? Do you want to tell us about it?
La Terrain Watches, the official watch of the Palmcast. Go there, pick out a watch. It's going to be nice. It's going to be luxurious. Enter the promo code Palmcast when you check out for the best possible rate. Also, go to bookatailgate.com. Book a tailgate. They can help you out with all your tailgate needs within a single tent, a double tent, a TV. They'll even pick up your catering there and store your tailgating gear for you. So give them a call at bookatailgate.com. Do you have an ad you want to read? I think BetOnline AG?
BetOnline.ag, yes, it's your number one spot for all of your sports betting needs. They have all the odds on all the college football, man. It's great. The football, all the football teams are back. The NFL is back. It's your number one spot for all football action. They have an updated site interface. They have even more odds, props, and contests. BetOnline continues to be your number one source for everything football. So head to the website, or use your mobile device. You can sign up today, receive not your 50% welcome bonus. That's a thing in the past. It's 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. But you have to use the promo code NFL100. So BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all of your favorite sports. So BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. So go place your bet on BetOnline, then head over to playactionpools.com. We are Believe is partnering with playactionpools.com this season to bring some interactive fun to the sport that we love the most. You'll be able to get in on all the action with playactionpools.com Football Pick'em Challenge, which is open to everyone. Here's how it works. Sign up for our contest, Believe Football Pick'em at playactionpools.com, and get your picks in each week. We're going to select the 10 highest profile games of the week between NFL and college football. Whoever gets the most picks correct each week will win a pair of electric sunglasses and a pair of DC shoes. Jake, I know you're all for that, so go in there and sign up. Again, go to playactionpools.com, sign up for the contest Believe. That's BLEAV, Football Pick'em. And if you plan on hosting your own football contest, go to playactionpools.com today. They've got survivor competitions, pick 'em, and they've got this cool sportsbook style concept called Build Your Bankroll. No clue what that means, but I plan on investigating it. So Play Action Pools, your new home for all your office sports pools. So there you go.
What are electric sunglasses?
Maybe when I win this week, I'll find out.
Yeah, somebody let me know what electric sunglasses are.
Let me ask Uncle Google here. Let me ask.
Before we get into our picks, I was sitting here thinking about that. I was like, what is going on there? Maybe like.
I think it's a brand. It's a brand.
Oh, it's a brand. Okay. I'm sitting here thinking like batteries in your sunglasses.
Light up, you know.
Yeah. What are you looking at?
Sunglasses. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm gonna find out.
Happening.
There's some pretty nice stuff. Electric eyewear. That's the brand. Yeah.
Okay.
And then of course DC shoes. So you can go lay at the beach and then go skateboarding later in your DC shoes. So let's get into picks, guys.
Picks.
All right. I wanted to keep mine a surprise for long. Coming into this week, we were Steve. You were 8-5 last week. That brings your season total to 15-11. I went 7-6 this week. Brings my total to 17-9 on the season. Jeb, you went 8-5. You are now 14-12 on the season. Jake, same record, 14-12, 8-5 a week ago. Craig was 5-8 last week. He brings his record to a 513 and 13. And of course, if you're interested, Kevin Bohannon, also of Best of the West, 9-4 last week, 15-11 overall. So I still have the best win-loss record. I hope to keep that up this week. So let's start. With. We have a few non-conference games in here too. We have a couple of non-conference games, so I'm excited about that. Well, let's start with A&M at New Mexico at A&M, I should say. A&M 28.5 point favorite. Steve, what you got, man?
This is one of those games. I saw a very uninspired game, a 10-7 game against Colorado. I understand that New Mexico isn't very good as well, but it feels like a lot of points. And I don't think that Texas A&M is going to be able to cover that. It's like this feels like a 31-10 game, a 24-3 game. Not quite enough to get to that number.
Yeah, I agree. I think A&M looked kind of confused and lost when they lost their quarterback, and they'll get it together. They'll play a lot better this week, but I don't think they're going to destroy New Mexico like the experts seem to think. So I'm going with not covering that spread.
Hey, yeah, I think in the chat we have Chase Rogers, a tight end at Ole Miss's grandmother in there. How you doing, Glenda?
Glenda, how's it going?
That's pretty cool. Congratulations and brag all day. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely brag. This is the place to do it. So, I'm going New Mexico too. I just think 28.5 is too much to cover. I think it's going to be one of those. If New Mexico gets on the board at all, New Mexico is going to cover this one. So I'm going to take New Mexico for the sake of the picks. I am not going to betonline.ag and putting actual money on this game. I'm staying far away, and maybe even take the under if I really feel froggy. So next game we got, we just talked about it. It's the Fighting Jake Thomases, 16.5 point road favorites at the Swamp, which I never thought I'd see a team be double-digit favorites at the Swamp, but here we go. But here we are. Jeb, we'll start with you. We know who Jake's picking. He's picking Florida. Just kidding.
No, I don't know exactly what to expect from Florida, but I know what to expect from Alabama. I've learned not to pick against them unless I really think the team is gonna have a chance to win. I don't think Florida will, so I'm going with Bama to cover that spread.
Yeah, now I look at it. It's going to be a game where Bama hits a couple of explosives early, gets a 14-point lead, and then over the course of the game just expands it. I think Bama wins this game by 28 points.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they get there a little quicker though, Steve. That's where I disagree with you. I'm not picking Florida in this one. I'm not even touching that. Even though I hate Florida and sometimes I do pick Florida, with my brain. They're just not going to do it. They're just not going to win. They're not going to cover. They're not going to do anything. You're going to see Dan Mullen lose his mind on the sideline. That's where I stand on this one. And, of course, obviously Jake picks Bama, and Jake picked New Mexico as well. So next game, Arkansas at home, 23.5-point favorites as they host the Georgia Southern Eagles. Steve, I'm going to start with you here. How do you see this one shaking out?
I am going to take Georgia Southern in this game. I think after an emotional win last week, that is too many points for Arkansas to cover. They're not an explosive team to begin with. I think Georgia Southern comes up and they end up losing a 14-point game. So Arkansas by 14-ish will be the final score of that game. Getting ready for A&M next week.
Jeb?
Yeah, this one was a tough one for me because I do think that Arkansas is good enough to beat them by 24 points. I also think it's probably the way it's going to end up playing out is that Arkansas will run the ball a lot, kind of control the clock, and end up not really covering that spread. But because I know they're good enough to do it, I'm going to go ahead and pick them to actually follow through, get it done this time.
It's a great pick, Jeb. I think Arkansas has got a lot of momentum right now. I think Georgia Southern is going to come in. They're going to get out physical. I don't think Georgia Southern is going to score a whole lot of points. And I think Arkansas is going to score in the 40s, and I think that's going to be enough to cover this 23.5-point spread. So give me the Razorbacks, pick Suey. Jake's going with Georgia Southern, I guess because he feels like Arkansas can't do it 2 weeks in a row. I don't know. But I'm going Woo Pig Suey. Our next game, Mississippi State -3 on the road at Memphis. I'm taking Mississippi State. I think they've got a lot of momentum here. I think they're overwhelming enough to be able to win this game. It's a low spread, and anytime you get a low spread with two fairly even teams, which Memphis is a little bit down than what they have been, I'm going to take Mississippi State. They showed me something. They showed me a little bit of physicality. They showed me a little bit of explosiveness. They can win and they can score in special teams, and they make it difficult to run on. So give me the Bulldogs. Jeb, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, I agree. I think the thing that impressed me with Mississippi State this week was their defense and their special teams actually stepping up. I don't know that much about Memphis this year, but it's just pretty much just who you think is going to win the game, and I think State will end up winning this one. Probably not by a lot, but that's okay.
Yeah, and the games like this with the low spread, you're basically picking an outright winner, and who do you think is going to win the game? I think Mississippi State has a little bit better players. Memphis is good offensively. They struggled defensively. This could be a game where the Mississippi State offense breaks out and scores 31 points-ish.
Nice pick. And Jake is going against the grain, going with Memphis because he don't have a whole lot of confidence in Mississippi State. Our next one, probably one of the biggest SEC matchup lines that I've ever seen. 31.5 point spread. Georgia at home hosting South Carolina. Never thought I'd see that day. The thing that concerns me on this game is that South Carolina always gives Georgia their best shot. I still have a little PTSD from the game that saved Will Muschamp. But that was a different team, different makeup. This is a totally different team now. Totally more explosive, totally more together, totally way more talented of a team. They covered when I didn't think they would against UAB, and they covered and then some. So, Steve, do you think Georgia's going to cover this one?
Yes, I do think Georgia's going to cover this. I don't know how South Carolina is going to score with a GA quarterback. And this kind of goes with Anthony Richardson. Just hold out Luke Doty until next week. Play the GA, let him take his beating, his 38-3 game, his 42-3 game, and just move on about your day. I think Georgia's going to win this game fairly handily.
All right, Jeb.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. This is the same as I was saying with the Arkansas game. I think Georgia's definitely 31 points better than South Carolina. It's just will they score that. But I agree with Steve. I don't think South Carolina's going to be able to score at all. So that's why I think Georgia will cover in this one.
I think the mailman delivers another beat down. He is hot as a firecracker, a bottle rocket in July, or whatever that little saying is. I'm going Dogs, and Jake's going to make it a clean sweep as well. Auburn at Penn State. I think I think Jake is screaming War Eagle over there. So Jeb, what do you think?
This is the one where I decided to go against the grain just kind of for fun. Auburn has looked great offensively the last 2 weeks. I know it was against Cupcakes, but I feel like maybe if they've got that pulled together, they can actually pull this game out. They'd have to win by a touchdown to cover the spread. Oh no, I'm sorry. Penn State's the one favorite, so I think they can actually win this game, and I'm going for Auburn to actually beat Penn State.
Okay.
Steve?
I'm going to take Penn State in this game. Auburn will find out exactly how enthusiastic, and it's going to be a wonderful atmosphere. I don't trust Bo Nix to make up that 6 points. So, like I said, it's a one-score game. I think Penn State can win by 7. I think they win by 14-21. Honestly, I think as it goes down, Bo Nix is going to wilt a little bit under the Happy Valley pressure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those where Penn State jumps out early, and Auburn has a hard time recovering, and Penn State does still win. I think Penn State's going to get one of those 10-point games where they jump out early, Auburn comes back a little bit, and then they jump back out again. It's just going to be kind of one of those you just push the lead on down the road and to a point where Auburn can't catch up. But it's going to be a close, good, competitive game. I just think it's going to be just out of Auburn's reach in this one, so I'm going to take the Nittany Lions here.
Yep, absolutely. I think Jake picked the Nittany Lions as well.
I believe so.
Yeah. I think he's buying stock in Happy Valley right now. So
Next up, the Shark Humper. The Shark Humper.
the Shark Humper is next. He's traveling to LSU. I bet LSU wears purple this week. They are 19.5-point favorites. As bad as they've looked, that's I don't know about that.
Too many points.
Way too many points for this one. I think we can. I think it's fair to say that we're going to clean sweep this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
And we're not saying Central Michigan's going to win. We're just saying that LSU's not going to win by 20.
Yeah, it could be a 30. It could be a 31-14 game, and LSU won't cover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's this one's going to play out a lot like what the South Florida game played out like last week, where they should cover this and then another cover on top of that, right? They should double this spread. But they won't. Because they have a lot of problems.
Yes.
So they have a lot of problems.
And it's not really at the quarterback position. It's weird that they're set at quarterback and yet the team has problems. It's so bizarre.
They're set at quarterback. They have a great receiver in
Keyshawn Boutte.
Keyshawn Boutte.
Yeah.
But
they have no running backs.
They're terrible.
I took the wrong classes.
Yeah. I'm sure that they hire it's the biggest load of crap, or they have the worst academic staff that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Just so you know, Ed Orgeron as a head coach, I have seen this movie. I know what's going on down there. I know how he's going to react to this, and I know how miserable that is everybody that is working for that club is right now, because he so desperately wants to be successful, but he has no idea how to get there.
Exactly.
Whenever he was at Ole Miss and we'd go through this situation, all of a sudden you'd hear him across the hall talking to Pete Carroll. It's like, they're doing this, this, and this. What do I need to do then? And it was so sad. It's like, there's no way this is going to work.
Hey, Pete. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. We used to call Pete Carroll the Commodore, as in the captain of 2 ships.
Very fitting. Speaking of Commodores, Steve, that was the greatest unintentional segue I've ever seen.
Perfect.
Perfect segue. Vandy hosting Stanford. Stanford 11-point favorites on the road in Nashville. Steve, I'm going to start with you. Can Vanderbilt get their second win on the season, or at least cover?
Yes. I'm the president of the Kansas Seals fan club. He led them to a victory at Colorado State. Let's not forget that Stanford was an 18-point dog to USC. Let's just discount the fact that USC kind of shit the bed a little bit and went off and did their things, and Stanford blew them out. But they were an 18-point dog going into that game for a reason. They play that old style football. It'll be interesting with Clark Lee as a defensive coordinator. How, now that the book is out a little bit on them, how is he going to defend them? I'm looking forward to that. 11 points is too many. I think Stanford probably wins by a touchdown, but I don't think they're going to beat them by 2.
Jeb?
Yeah, I agree. After last week, I would have said Vanderbilt was in a lot of trouble, but they showed us this week they do still remember how to play football. They can still actually get after it, run a bit, and I agree. I like Kenny Stills a lot, even if he does occasionally just throw the ball the wrong way. But no, I think Vanderbilt will cover in this game, maybe even have a chance to win it.
Listen, I'll take the L to see this happen. I would love to see Vanderbilt win this game. I'm rooting for that. I think they certainly have the capability to. But what really concerns me is the physicality that Stanford still has, even with this old man football. I think this is a Jimmy's and Joe's game, and I think Stanford has better people overall than Vanderbilt. Now, obviously, Vanderbilt's got them whipped in the quarterback position, but I think Stanford's got them whipped in a lot of the power positions like offensive, defensive lines, linebackers, stuff like that. So I think Stanford's going to end up winning this by a couple of scores. I think it's going to be tight for a little while. Then Stanford's going to score that insurance touchdown at the end to ensure the cover. So I'm going to take the Cardinal in this one. I'm rooting against it, but conventional wisdom tells me that their Jimmys and Joes right now at this moment are better than Vanderbilt's. But Vanderbilt showed me some resolve. They're getting in the right direction. They're starting to play hard now. They're starting to figure this thing out. It's just not going to happen this week.
This could be a year one defining win if Vanderbilt can somehow do that. Vanderbilt should be leading the smart schools. And also the Duke Northwestern game is this weekend. It's like smart school playing smart school at both locations. It's kind of funny.
It's like quiz bowl broke out into a football game.
Yeah. The only places where you might get 70,000 for a chemistry experiment.
Exactly. Speaking of chemistry experiments, Ole Miss hosting Tulane, 14-point favorites. I don't know how the chemistry experiment tied into that. I just felt like it should.
I think the Ole Miss offense is going to be able to score. Ole Miss has better players than Tulane. I think Ole Miss is going to be able to score. The defense is going to bend but don't break. They're going to play that 3-2-6 defense that's so hard and is befuddling young quarterbacks out there. Michael Pratt is the quarterback from Tulane. He's just a sophomore. He probably hasn't seen something at this level, and definitely not something at this level at this speed. Oklahoma tried to play real defense. Tulane kind of carved them up. Their offensive coordinator is Chip Long, who used to be at Notre Dame way back when. He kind of was with Mike Norvell at the beginning when he was at Memphis. So they're a good team. If Ole Miss does not show up efficiently and has penalties and turnovers, Tulane is good enough to beat them. But I just think there's just too many horses up in Oxford.
I tend to agree with you. In the very back of my mind, that Oklahoma-Tulane Week 1 matchup, it just keeps playing over and over again. When I made the pick, I started typing out. I was like, wait a minute. What if Tulane does that again?
That game was like 37-14 at halftime.
And Oklahoma just
let them back in. It's one of those things that just got on hand. But it wasn't. They were blowing them out at halftime, and just the second half kind of went off the rails.
And I see on our pick sheet now we're welcoming Oklahoma and Texas in the conference now.
SEC.
Oklahoma hosting Nebraska, old Big 12 rivalry there. Oklahoma 22-point favorites, which if you looked at this game in 1982, that number would have probably been 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
But now it is 22 in favor of Oklahoma. Nebraska, for lack of better terms, is just pitiful. So I'm taking the Sooners. Probably not going to lay a cent on this game. But for the sake of these picks, I'm picking the Sooners here. I think they're going to blow them out. Nebraska, they're going to get blown out. They're going to fire Scott Frost finally. And here we go.
Yeah, in 1997 or 1998, Nebraska and Oklahoma played in Norman, and Nebraska won the game 69-7. This might be the reverse of that, to where they settle some old scores.
That would be
Oklahoma.
That would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm Oklahoma, that would be fun. That's what I would try to do. Try to get Spencer Rattler back, get some confidence back there. But obviously, Jeb, unless you want to add something, it is a clean sweep with OU.
No, I'm definitely going with Oklahoma. And it's not so much that I think Oklahoma is a great team. They're not quite as good as I think that I thought they were, but Nebraska is just so bad.
Yeah,
I don't think Oklahoma will have much trouble with it.
No, they won't. And another game, another old Southwest Conference game. Texas hosting Rice, the battle for Houston supremacy. I don't know why, but it is. Texas is trying to get a recruiting foothold back in Houston. So this is a 26-point spread here. Trying to drum up some storylines, just can't.
Yeah.
Jeb, can Texas cover this spread, and why?
I think Texas is going to take out some frustrations on Rice, to be honest with you. That game against Arkansas did not go their way in any phase of the game. It just looked terrible, and I think Texas will end up winning this one pretty big and kind of a, I don't want to say revenge game, but just more of an anger game.
Yeah. You don't want to start 0-2 in the Southwest Conference. I mean, years and years tell us that you want to do that. Arkansas 2-0. You don't want to fall two games behind the Hogs. So I look for Texas to bounce back against Rice. Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's brother, one of the co-quarterbacks at Rice. I saw that in week 1 when they played the Hogs. Yeah, so that's something. He transferred from Nebraska as well. So they lost all players that could have been playmakers on their program.
How bad is it? How bad is it to go from a Power 5 school to Rice?
Nebraska, he transferred originally to Louisville, went through spring practice at Louisville, and then transferred to Rice.
How bad is it at Nebraska and Louisville to have to do that? Oh, my God. But I guess we saw why he transferred from Louisville. They were kind of a cluster. But, Jeb, I agree with everything with you. This is going to be let's take out some frustration. Let's try to get the fans back on our side and believing in Sark. I think Sark's going to have a big day here. I think Bijan Robinson's going to have a big day. I think you're going to see a 30-point thrashing here. And it's going to be one of those, let's beat them by 30, and let's get out of here.
Yeah, get right game.
Yep, the get right game. So that's going to do it for our picks. So we that is our picks for this week. Hopefully I can continue the winning ways that I've had this year. I haven't done this well in picks in a long time, so I'm gonna go ahead and knock on some wood here. I just finished my Leinenkugel. Been sipping on that. Cheers to you guys. It's been a fun show. This is gonna be that stopping point that we have for SEC After Dark. Glad you were able to join us in the chat. Cassidy, Stacy, Glenda, our resident
Guy.
grandma.
Yeah, Guy. Yeah.
Guy joined us early. I don't know where Guy is now, but he needs to make another appearance there. And, of course, our associate producers, want to thank them. Our technical director, Cassidy Thomas. Our executive producer, Stephen Willis. Our associate producer, Stacy Blackwood. And director of cinematography, Jeb Beecham. So I just had to come up with a title. So
I appreciate it.
This is you can follow us. All our social media stuff is linked down below. Our chat is active. If you want to be a part of the chat, just jump right on in. We are live right now. We're on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of the social media sites. We're streaming live. Follow us on Instagram as well. My Instagram's not on there. It's a little bit different. It's the Believe in Dogs account is there, but also my personal one, Burton.Corey on Instagram. You can follow that as well. If you want to see things of me grilling, I post a lot of grilling stuff on my personal one. Not a lot.
Thanks, Stacy.
I don't post a lot of anything, but we appreciate you, Stacy. We appreciate you, Jake. Appreciate you, everybody that joined the chat. We appreciate you for listening and spreading the good word of SEC After Dark. It is picking up some much needed steam. So hopefully we continue to do that. But for Stephen Willis and Jeb Beecham, this is SEC After Dark. I am Corey Burton. We are on Willis Digital Media, home of the Pomcast. You can also find us anywhere you find podcasts as well. I will post this under the Beast of the East as well as a special episode. So long. See you later. Have a great weekend. Check out Beast of the East running at a special time tomorrow. Steve is telling all of us to anchor down. Go Dogs, Hotty Toddy, and VFL.
Oh,
There you go.
okay.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And for Jake, I'm gonna give you a good War Eagle. No. In all seriousness, Roll Tide this weekend. Hope you enjoy your games. If you travel to these games, be safe and good night. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here next Wednesday night, as always, with a cocktail in hand. Peace.